know I can, but I can't, unfair. I want you to know, honey, unfair. 'Cause you already know.
What was the name of the first name of the organization that was ran by Amanubi Rakpata Panabab Yanun back in the 60s?
If I remember correctly, it was the Ancient Nubian Taurites. If my mind serves me right, it was the Ancient Nubian Taurites. That was back in 67, 68. And his title at that time was Amanubi Rakpata.
So,
upon arrival here, Ethically, as Bennett in 1970, and the taking of the control of this body, of this individual that was 25 years old, not of much use to us. I went, and if you read the books, I went to State Street amongst the Sunnis and sat there and listened to their teachers, Hafiz Mahbub, a Pakistani, Hussein, a Sudanese, Salahuddin, Palestine. I sat there in State Street with them, gathered on Thursday nights with them and listened. And said, no, there is no discipline here. This is a little bar stuff. This is Allahu Akbar, which can be any law, and these people ain't getting no direction. They don't even know what these men are talking about. And these Pakistanis who speak Urdu, they don't even know what they're talking about. And the Sudanese don't care. They just there to get a sandwich because they're starving. Or they're students and they try to get somebody to help them pay for their student loan. So I left there and I went on to the Moorish Science Temple out there in Queens with a brother named Salahuddin, who's a Rosicrucian, Astarian, who's everything he could read. Very confused. But he took me to the Moorish Science Temple, he had his feather on and stuff, and I sat amongst them. And I listened about the noble Juali story. He's a prophet. He wrote his own Quran copied out of the Aquarian Gospel of Jesus by a man named Livy. And I said, nah, ain't no discipline here. Can't do it here. So I left it. I started listening to and reading Muhammad Speaks and listening to tapes of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And the Nation of Islam wasn't no Farrakhan, he didn't have no power back then. I roamed around the streets of Harlem, and I encountered a subculture of wannabe Nation of Islamers, but wanted to still use reef and wear what they want and smoke and be hip-hop. It's called 5% at the time. Now they call it gods and goddesses and kings and all kind of names. They didn't bring stuff to mean things. I listened to that rhetoric, said there's no shelter there. No shelter in the Nation of Islam, there's no shelter in the 5% nation. I went on to the Israelites, Beth Shalom in Brooklyn, Beth Israel in Brooklyn. And I went amongst them. We used to gather there on their Shabbat. And we'd go in there. And I'd bring a small band of people with me, and some of them are still here today. And I sat amongst them. And I listened to their Kohens or their rabbis, whatever name they want to use. And I saw them getting drunk at a party and fussing and fighting with each other at the party. One of the Israelites temples from Chicago came in, and the Brooklyn community, they started dancing and grinding on each other's women. And I was sitting there, and I said, no, this ain't the place to do it. So I looked and I said, the only religion that has so many dumb restrictions on it, so many unresearched facts, that are made to look like facts because nobody's researching them, is Islam. But you have to grab a specific, you have to be particular about how you use it. So I said, how do I create a cult that would isolate itself from everybody? The Sunnis would leave us alone, the Nation of Islam would leave us alone, the Christians would leave us alone, and the Israelites and Hebrews would leave us alone.
True men of God in peace and war times. What we're doing now is trying to establish a timeline, and I'm going to compare a couple of sources so we can see the contradictions and other little tidbits that's in here. Now here is where York was paroled out of jail, out of prison. October 2067. So that leaves York with about 2 months and 11 days to 1968. All right. So we heard where York started at. All right. So you got to remember, this is supposed to have been taking place from the time he got out in October 67 to 1970, because he always kept talking about the 7th seal and 1970 when the seal was open, and that was the year that he became abducted or incarnated in 1970 at 25. So this is what we're dealing with. That's the time window. So when we look at everything that was said, the elder said, rest in peace, he said that York them first organization name was the Ancient Tides. All right. So we know, according to what we just heard York say out his own mouth, none of that was mentioned. Okay, York said he got out of jail. He went to State Street. That's the first place he was trying to find somewhere to start. Then he said he went to the Moorish Science Temple. Then he said he started listening to the Nation of Islam information on tapes and all of that. Then he said he ran into the 5 percenters. He said that wasn't it. He said he ran into the Hebrew Israelites. That wasn't it. All right. So eventually he said he settled on, Sunni Islam, but it would have to be a branch of it where he can hide and do his thing, right? And it had so many dumb restrictions on it that he'll be able to raise $144,000 of that now. But when York started doing his thing, York was saying that his problem was with the para-Arabs or the Sunni Muslims, right? So when you listen to York old tapes and stuff on even if you go on YouTube and type in Imam Isa or Dr. York in Islam, these are the Arabs that York was talking about, of different shades, right? This is what he was talking about. The different type of Arabs, right? But what York was doing, York was using the Ansar, right? Because you talking about Sunni or Sunnah just means the tradition where they follow what Muhammad is doing. But the Ansars supposed to have been, I think, the descendants of Ali who married, who married the one of the daughters of the Prophet Muhammad. All right, so when you start going into the Ansar stuff, right? This is what York was talking about. So the question I asked, and I brought this point up again. If you was going to use Islam, like you said, he was calling it dumb and stupid, why did you choose a black part of Islam to be able to hide and do your thing at? That's what I kept telling you. So him using Islam, he told you he didn't care about none of it. So everything that York was teaching, when you go on YouTube and how he's speaking in Arabic and they doing all this good stuff, running around, talking about the angels and the Quran and this, that means, according to what we heard him say, all of that was a ruse. That was all pretend and play. So again, the question that comes up is why did he use the Ansar, the black version? Why he didn't pick a pale Arab version like the Ahmadiyya sect or some other type of sect that he could have used, that the pale Arabs had a branch of Islam, right? Which he said was following Abu Bakr, right? Why he didn't follow one of those sects and bring that in America and do that? Because again, that's the point that y'all have to ask these questions and say, you're right, that don't make no sense. All right? So we can realize from this point that there's nothing in there that support what the elder said about how York them started. So now we're going to go to the Holy Tablets, right? And we're going to start from page 1651 and go to 1653, which is verses 219 to 279. Now listen what he said. The mission of our master teacher formed in the late 1960s AD. Stop. First of all, this is somebody else's writing this because it said the mission of our master teacher. Because if York was writing this, he would have said my mission, right? So that this proof that York didn't write anything. It was those women that he had in there slaving, doing all of the copying and pasting and reading the books and all that stuff and typing and all that good stuff. Everybody knows that. All right? Doing all the drawing. All right, then it says formed in the late 60s under the name Amanubi Ruakata. Number one, that's a lie. The spellings is a lie as well. So let's jump back here before we move any further. Let's just go on and get this out of the way. You can go to get the book, The Harvest, and what it says right here. York already gave credit, so they watched and waited to see if it was Wusabat. They knew about Nawapu of Afro Uno, right? And we all know who Afro Uno is. The same way they do, and they put his picture up in the Brooklyn temple. I don't know if it's still there, but that's the picture. All right. So this book, The Heavenly Tablets, was written in '96, but York been telling this lie for a long time. All right. So now we know that York wasn't writing this, and they was repeating the lies. All right. An unknown writer of the Signs of Nawapu. We already know that wasn't York. All right. So we correcting this like we doing for Taharka, right? Knowing that Nawapians weren't ready for that level of information as of yet. This also is another contradiction and a lie on Sound Right Reason and the cycle in general. Because if February 5th, 1962 was the end of the moon cycle, right, which it was, not the year 2000 that York lied and told his slaves, 1962 is the end of that. That means the religion lasted, 6,000 years. So anything done after 62 had to be non-religious. And the BIE, the 9-ball, tells you that. I'll give anybody $1,000 if you can show me in the BIAE, the Bible Interpretation, books 1 and 2, and the 9-ball that said that they need to go and start religion and start going through religion after we just went through damn near 4,000 years of religion. Why would that make any sense when the cycle for religion and the Savior was past? York took it upon himself to tell that lie that he is the one that decided to give you what you want. That's a lie. The moon cycle gave us what we supposed to have, even though we didn't want it. We didn't want Islam and all the stuff that these different races of people use their religions to harm us and then turn us into advocates and slaves of those religions. Anybody can prove anywhere in the Bible Interpretation and the 9-ball counts that state go into those different religions that York was doing. That's more proof that he didn't write that. All right, that's a lie. All right, now let's go. Now it goes to I started teaching under the name Imam Isa. Now it's writing in the first person. For Muslims seem to be the most influential movement of the time and didn't dare question each other. I set up the headquarters, which is located in Brooklyn, New York, and began in an apartment building on 2525 Bedford Avenue in 1967. So you mean to tell me he fresh out of prison at 22, no job, no nothing, and he got an apartment? How? When his own parents said they was broke. How you fresh out of prison and you got an apartment? And he said they. But we're going to keep going. During this time, I named my mission what? Ansar Pure Sufi. All right, this 67. So how is this elder saying that they was known as the ancient Nubian tides? How was that? And we heard York tell the story. York is a religionist. York did not write those books. And even if you read the BIE and the 9-ball counts, if you can prove to me anywhere where it says start a religious organization or start an organization in general, I'll give you $1,000 if you can show me where in the books that tells you to go do what York was doing. If you can prove without a shadow of a doubt that anything in those books tell you to set up a religion or part of a religion after the book tells you that religion is a spell. The Wapi and Sabian say that to the day, religion is a spell. It's a spell to spell. So why did York start a religion? Because he was under the spell too. You really believe that York was woke and then decided to put himself and his people under a spell for over 40 years? You can't be serious. Our official garb at this time, right? Okay, 1967. So we know that something's wrong with that right there. During this time, I named my mission Ansar Pir Sufi with the usage of the 6-pointed star and crescent with an ankh inside. Our official garb at the time was a black tunic, we call it bootlaw, and black loose fitting pants with the tarbush and shoes, which became known as Romeos. This was in the year 1967. Lies. Then the dress changed to African robes and the people we called ourselves the Nawapians. Lies. They was not called Nawapians in 1967. Lies. Is nowhere in the BIE or the 9-ball counts that use the word Nawapian, right, or Nawabu, nor does it says Nawapu were people. It said that Nawapu was a science, and a science, and the word science just means to know. So you can be a knower, but you cannot be a person or a race called Nawapians. Now the BIA does say we are sons and daughters of Sound Right Reason. That's because we know that that Nupu personified themselves as the pygmy gods, and after 36 million years they procreated and had us before they died off. And that's what the Bible interpretation was actually saying. But it's no such thing. Show and prove. I'll give another $1,000. If y'all can show me in 1967, York followers were called the Nawabians. Lies. In 1969 AD, the group metamorphed to the Nawabian Islamic Hebrews. Lies. It was called the Nubian Islamic Hebrews. And that came after the Ansars. This is the foolishness that York was trying to tell you. So if you don't pay attention, you'll think that York did all of this 2 months and 11 2 months? Let me get the number right, because I just had the number. 2 months and 11 days, York did all of this. And then from 67 to 69, he did all that. Y'all know darn well York and them wasn't even using that term, Nawabians. All right? We just keep going. We're just going to skip it. Then 1970 AD, the Nawabian Islamic Hebrews were founded as an official set and communal living was set. But we know that was the Ansars. This is just a whole bunch of mess and lies. Also in the year 1970 AD, the small flock moved to a house on Neptune Avenue on 23rd Street in Coney Island. They opened a what? Pure Sufi bookstore. I'm still looking for the ancient Nubian ties. Ain't nowhere in here you gonna see that. Everything York is doing once he got set up was Islam, and he was using a black branch of it, the Ansars from out of Sudan, and was doing all that corruptibility in that name. This is why York didn't get any real throwback, because he was using his own race of people as stool pigeons and stepping stones and sexual dumping grounds and slaves and a slave master. But if he had used one of those pale Arab versions, they would have been at him. That's why he chose to do it to the black people. And y'all think that's cool? All right, then we relocated and opened a masjid on 222 Utica Avenue. Right, this was a very spiritual period and many angelic visitors manifested themselves to the growing congregation. Our community was expanding so rapidly we had to move again in 1972 AD. This time was the 452 Rockaway Avenue where classes were held in what we call the upper room. Again, religion. That's all that Christians got a song called The Upper Room. This nigga is religious. All right, show me in the Bible interpretation and explanation of 9 ball counts that says establish something called the upper room. Nowhere in those books that said create an organization. Nowhere. And you keep reading all the way up here. He talk about he drew many hypocrites, phonies who just wanted to play Muslim. He was playing Muslim. Y'all got it. You got to be kidding me. York said he needed a place to hide and keep people away from him. York was playing Muslim. Look at this. Ain't this ridiculous? 248. You a hypocrite. That's why you drew hypocrites. He was a phony. He was playing Muslim because he said it was all fake. He wrote what, 360 questions to ask Sunni Muslim? Then he did another book called Islam Unmasked and broke all this stuff down. He was playing Muslim. If your job was to come with the 9 ball and the BIAE, none of those books from 67 to 72 is pro-religion. So anybody would believe that crap is just as brain dead. All right, so now let's look at what Taharqa said, because again, all of this goes back to him. Because we want to use everything we can to make everything fit in chronological order. All right? So let's look at this. 1967, chapter 3 in his book, page 44. Let's see what it says. Prior to his release from Rikers Island prison correctional facility in 1967, York made the life-changing decision to completely abandon his overt criminal gang affiliation and instead focus his energies and intellect on a new direction of becoming a pro-black religious leader. This is what all the scammers and the conscious community are doing at this moment to this day. They all came from some criminal background and hopped in the game and started talking and repeating all this stuff. Except back then they was doing it in the streets. It's not how it is now. Everything is mostly digital. People's on the internet, whatever. And that's why you always hear people screaming about you're not out there doing the work. It ain't no work to be done because it failed. You know they were saying the same thing back then. We got to come together. We got to get in these streets. We got to bring our black people together. Black power, pro-black, this, that organization. You think they ain't wasn't doing that back then? The difference is they didn't have computers. The news was reporting and showing them in different places. And they was all getting infiltrated and set up and destroying each other's organization and stealing each other's followers. I said this before. Once they set Garvey up, rest in power, then Noble Drew Ali wanted to see him in jail, and then he came back and told a lie that Garvey told him to go ahead and keep it moving. And Garvey wrote a letter and said that he told them everything needed to know, and that they shouldn't be getting fooled by this man. I'm paraphrasing, but that's a fact. That's on record. That as soon as he got locked, Drew Ali, rest in peace, stole his followers. And then Elijah was in his organization and left, and then stole his followers. And then eventually other groups broke away, right? Elijah Muhammad, rest in peace. He died, or before he died, when Malcolm left, a lot of his followers followed Malcolm. Malcolm, according to his own mouth and all that, he wasn't trying to take Elijah Muhammad's followers. But a lot of people followed Malcolm. And then, rest in peace. And then, when Elijah Muhammad died, his son, Wafdeen Muhammad, took a lot of his followers and went to mainstream Islam with the pure Arabs. Then Farrakhan came, got his power back, and stole a lot of Wafdeen followers back. Then York come along, right after the 5 percenters who took a lot of the Nation Islam members. Then Farrakhan came, and then York finally came, and then stole their followers. And all you seeing is the same reoccurring dumbness over and over and over and over. All right, let's move forward. All right, and his leader as well as build a career in the music industry in order to achieve the goal he set about diligently. Anything which he was taught during his childhood under Sheikh Dawood, namely Islamic theology and linguistics. There's no proof he was taught linguistics. All right, they already done confirmed that. All right, this is just York spoke bad Arabic, and this is for people who was around, who done said things over the time, who listened to him. People who learned Arabic very well was pointing this stuff out. York didn't finish 9th grade. What are you talking about? He didn't go to no university. He just got his GED a couple years ago and Florence Supermax. Y'all stop. All right, which at the time was fast becoming very popular amongst African Americans due to the effects of groups like the Nation Islam. Therefore, upon his release on parole in 1967, York simply set about reconnecting with and converting some of his old gang associates into what would become the prototype or genesis of his organization formed later that same year. At the time, passing out of the 60s into the 70s, Nubians were caught up on the new craze Islam, be it Sunni, Moorish, Ahmadiyya, 5% Islam, or the Nation Islam. The Islamic religion seemed to be dominating the then well-accepted African culture that had spread into the Western world. Was dashikis, Afro picks, drums, and the likes were leaning towards Islam. York 1996, page 70. Once again, he didn't tell you where he got it from. Where did York say this? Is this from the Man of Many Faces? But I don't know. At the time of York's release, there were only said there have been 2 prominent doctrines prevailing amongst the African Americans. This is a lie, which were the Nation Islam. The Nation Islam hit their peak in the 60s when they had Malcolm. And once that happened, they started declining. The 5 percenters, you got the Black Panthers, they was just coming out of the love and peace movement and smoking weed and all this stuff, and Woodstock and the pimp organ, the pimp situation was getting big. Heroin was getting big. Prostitutes was getting big. Black exploitation movies. A lot of black shows started to come out. This is a lie. The Nation Islam would have been bigger than what York was teaching, but it wasn't this information. It wasn't the WAPU. All right. Under the leadership of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Moor Science Temple under the teaching of the late Noble Drew Ali. This is not true. The Moors was not big at the time of the late 60s and all that. That's not true. All these other Muslims of Islam, the Ahmadiyya sect, all that stuff, that they was the ones influencing off the backs of what Elijah, Malcolm, Noble Drew Ali and them had done, and those black guys who was into jazz and all that stuff became Muslim. Even the elder who was talking to Prince York said that a lot of these Muslim foreigners had dominated and migrated to New York. So there's no 2. That's a lie. All right? And the Moor Science Temple under the teaching of the late Noble Drew Ali. And this mix came, and into this mix came York, who was formerly a student of both Sheikh Dawood Omar Faisal and El Haj Malik El Shabazz, better known as Malcolm X. That's a lie. York was never a student of Malcolm X. He lied on Malcolm and said that he was over there with Malcolm when he went to take his heart. That's a lie. Because York had not too long got out of prison, like a month or so, while Malcolm was over there. This is lies. Now he got out like a month or so. He would have to get over there and do all. We discussed this, me and Chuck, in another video. The point is, he never met Malcolm, and he damn sure didn't guide Malcolm through Saudi Arabia and taught him and taught him how to pray over there. This is foolishness. All right. And the more science tip, okay, who were formerly a student, blah, 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 blah. All right, better known as Malcolm X, as a youngster growing up. Nevertheless, at some time around the early to mid 60s, York appears to have encountered the abstract and mysterious Afrocentric teachings of Nupu, or Nupu, N-U-P-U, properly pronounced Nuwapu, taught by the enigmatic and yet unknown author by the title of Amanubi Rakata, or Amanubi Rakata, later to be known as Afro Uno. Once again, Tahaka already got this information. All right, this is now he just being a lame duck. Once again, for those who are watching, once again, you can go get the Harvest book. All right, go to any of your nearby Coke leader, Coke membership, Sabian bookstore, tell them you want the Harvest, and you go right to 174. So what is he talking about? Afro Uno been known. We know who Afro Uno is. Why y'all keep playing this game? I don't know why. This Afro Uno to the far left. He knows this. That's Afro Uno right there. Ain't no unknown. And he's still telling lies. And your book is up, and you released this in 2020, 2021. You already knew who Afro Uno was, but you still lied in the book. All right? All right, Ansar Allah Community of America. And it states right here. The United Nawabi Nation of Moors, today known as the Sabians, were initially established around 1967 as an Afrocentric movement, first called the Ancient Nubian Tahites, then later the Ansar Pure Sufi. Once again, that's not true. York tells you that Pure Sufi was what they started with first. It was the Ancient Nubian Tahites. York was a Muslim, even as far back as 12 years old. That's how he came out. There's no way he ended up writing all this other stuff. And he already told you who wrote it. We not finna play these games. We don't want to hear this crap about debate what? Your teachers are lying. We proved all of these things. I have no interest in debating subject matters, because the only thing that mattered to us is who was the writer of Nuwapu in the 60s, and we know who that was. Your own teacher told you who it was. All right, so that's the end of that. True men to call for peace in wartime.
What was the name of the first name of the organization that was ran by Amanubi Rakata, Panabab Yanun back in the 60s?
If I remember correctly, it was the Ancient Nubian Tahites. If my mind serves me right, it was Ancient Nubian Tahites. That was back in 67, 68, and his title at that time was Amanubi Rakata.
So,
like, we got him really backed up against the wall. He really ain't got nowhere else to go. But
That's right. That's right. He doesn't have any scholarship, so he has to go sneak around, phoning old women and trying to get information. That, dealing with the scholarship. You say you're going to debunk my book. I'm a Nigerian fraudster, yeah? So come and deal with this book. Stop trying to contact old women. Come and deal with this book. That's why I'm here.
Hey, Tahaka, you can't get with the book, man.
That's all. I said, if I'm a fraud, I'm a trash researcher. Come, let's deal with the book, page for page.
This is a proper written book, bro.
That's it. Simple. I got nothing to say. What I got to say is in the book.
Yeah, salute to the book, man. This is a good written book, man.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?